Call the meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. All members are present. Approval of the agenda. Are there any changes? Council have any?
Nope.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Make 'em.
I'll second.
Motion by Heidi, second by Joe. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Approval of the minutes of the January 4th, 2023 regular meeting. I'll receive them in your packet. Is there any changes, corrections, or clarification needed on those minutes? Hearing nothing, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the January 4th meeting?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Shellen, seconded by Diane. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Public open forum. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the council? Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the council? Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the council? Our public open forum is now closed. We have no public hearings. We'll move on to reports and presentations. Police report. Brian?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Activity report for the month of December 2022. Some of the numbers we had. We did 31 door checks. We had 157 traffic stops. We did 127 foot patrols and extra patrols, 30 patrols at the school. We had 9 gas no pay calls. We had 63 parking tickets we wrote. We had 12 accidents, 18 medicals, 23 personal assist. We had 13 alarms. We did nine welfare checks. We had 32 assists for other agencies. We had 9 business assists. We had 19, we wrote 19 citations for no Minnesota driver's license and 11 citations for driving after revocation and suspension. We had an ending total of 728 calls. So compare that to 2001, we're up 42 calls, and compare that to last month, we're up 119 calls. So December was pretty busy to finish out the year. There's a lot of other serious calls that month, so it gets a little tense during that time of year. And then, so we should have the final year-ending numbers, probably the second meeting in February. Hopefully, we get those brought out to us so we can put the annual report together. So,
Okay.
Should have that done by then. That's all I have.
Questions?
Okay.
Thank you,
Brian.
Public Works report. Ben?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Over the past month in the street department, we had 3 weeks that were pretty steady for plowing, hauling, and sanding. This did take the majority of our time this past month. No major repairs were needed to any of the equipment except for our loader. We have an issue with the depth sensor. It's on back order through Volvo. It's kind of a nationwide issue across all equipment that runs DEF, I guess. So we're working with the dealer for a better solution on this in the meantime until we can get that new sensor here. Outdoor rink, just cleaning and resurfaced during the week. Over the weekend, we did have someone rip the sink off the wall in the men's room. That's been repaired now. Christmas lights were removed from town in the park. Out at the airport, we replaced several runway lights that were not functioning. And we also have completed the snow removal around the runway exterior a couple of times this month from the snowbanks that accumulate from plowing. The AD building is nearing completion with the new exterior being done this week. And then we also had MnDOT Aeronautics at the airport to make some repairs to the weather station monitor that's in the AD building. So, any questions I can answer?
Questions?
I know that our streets are maintained far better than Alexandria or any other little city around here. Thank
Good.
you, Ben. Good job.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Planning Commission report. Sarah?
Good evening. In your packet, you have a copy of the Planning Commission agenda. We had a meeting on January 10th. We did hold a public hearing for the author's edition, which will be an action item later on your agenda. Building permit reports, we only issued 5 permits in December, which is typical. Total construction was $102,000. A year ago, there was like 1 permit for $5,000.
Questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Public Utilities Report. Basically, the Sauk Center Public Utilities held their first meeting on January 9th. Organizational meeting. The president is Ted Spanier. Vice president is Jeff Romanshenkel. Some of the items that have been talked about is the city's looking at, or they are looking at the township land just north of the Bear Trap for a well site. Right now, the township wants to get an appraisal on that property. So until that is in, that is kind of at a standstill. And also one other thing, in December, at their December meeting, they voted to increase the electric rates 2.5%, the water rates 5%, and the wastewater will be 10%. So otherwise, that is about it for that meeting. Any questions? Okay, and we'll move on to Airport Board Report.
So the Airport Board met in regular session on January 11th. They had, the final closeout report has been submitted for the 2021 project for seal coating to MnDOT, so we'll be getting our final dollars back from them. On the land acquisition grant, they're still seeking comparable property sales for the relocation portion of the grant, and that was for the property we're purchasing off the end of the 27 end of the turf runway. The bipartisan infrastructure funding that we had been allocated $159,000 in 2022 was reduced to $145,000 in 2023. We have, and then that money you need to use within 4 years. And then we're also eligible for 3 additional years. And when they originally set it up, it was going to be $159 a year, but it's been fluctuating, so we don't know what the 3 additional years will bring. They did add snow removal equipment to the CIP. Sometimes the state, if they have funding, they'll pick off the CIP for a state-only funded piece of equipment. As Ben said, the AD building is under construction. We did review the land lease agreements with no increase proposed, and the same with the hangar lease agreements with no increase proposed. And we did receive the resignation from Joe DiVitrio, who's been serving on the board, and he is moving out of state. So we will have an opening on the airport board. And that is it.
Questions, comments? Okay, then we'll move on to action items. 7A, approve resolution 2023-06, approving preliminary and final plat of Authors Edition.
So as Sarah said, the Planning Commission held a public hearing on the preliminary and final plat for Authors Edition on January 10th. The plat is now presented to the City Council for review and approval. The city, as you know, is the current owner and developer of the land. This is the property that we purchased from John Meyer earlier in the year. The lots as they're laid out, they're larger in the southeast and they get smaller as you move northwest throughout the plat. The preliminary design for utilities has been completed to ensure that all lots can be served by municipal utilities, including stormwater. The design to be reviewed at the next meeting before we go out and finalize that. The preliminary plat shows a proposal for 4 phases. You can see phase 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we'll be working on phase 1. So the final plat is for phase 1 only. So when we're done here, those are the 19 lots that will actually exist after the recording. The other phases will remain as outlots. And then as we can do 1 or 2 phases at a time. If we go to phase 2 or phase 2 and 3 together, that's certainly up to the future councils. And the city, as the owner, also can elect to record covenants on the plat. I did grab a draft of one that we have east of town out in Morningview, and we presented that for review. I'm not asking you to approve that tonight, but just to give consideration. If you think it's something we want to do, then we would finalize that at the next meeting. So what we're looking for tonight is to approve Resolution 2023-06, approving the preliminary and final plat of Author's Edition.
Questions, comments? Do we want to discuss the ability of the covenants now, or do you want to pass the vote on the resolution first and give staff direction as far as for the next meeting?
Yeah, that's fine.
Other discussion?
Yeah.
Okay. And do I, so the,
Motion to approve.
okay, we have a motion by Diane to approve resolution 2023-06. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Shallen. Any other discussion? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
Aye.
Motion carries 4 in favor, none against, 1 abstention. Okay, staff is looking for direction was whether or not we include the covenants on for next week, time we meet about this. I don't see any issues with any of the stuff that's on here. There was a couple things that I did mention to Vicky. One of it is I call them cookie cutter houses. So if a developer comes in and buys 6 lots, he builds all 6 houses looking identical, and there's no, to me, that's not what a housing area should look like. Everybody lives in the same house. And one of the other things was, if we sell a lot, it has to be developed on within 2 years. Because we're not doing this, we're trying to increase our tax base as a city, not have people buy lots for as an investment reason so they can turn around and make more money in the end. So I think I'd like to see a time frame. I don't know how that fits into everybody else's ideas, or
I think it's a good idea.
the main thing is, yeah, the assessments will be paid if the lot is sold. But we're not getting any tax base off of that, as
Right.
if it's gonna sit empty for the 10 years after they buy it. Or even 5 years after they buy it.
I would have a little bit of concerns with restricting or, requiring them to do that. I mean, I think there's plenty of people in town that may be looking for their next home that financially may not be able to be prepared to build at that point, that they're like, hey, we want to be out in this area, but it may be, 5 years, or maybe that's where we want to retire and we're, 50 and it might be 15 years. So, I mean, I think you lock people in on that. Yes, you're increasing your tax base, but, by getting a house on there right away, but you're also maybe reducing your potential buyers there.
Also, the forecast for building with prices where they are right now and where they have been over the last couple of years, that might be a potential reason why people would be hesitant to want to build within the next couple of years, because, we don't know where it's going to go with, cost to build.
And I brought it up for discussion. It isn't something that I'm gonna insist on doing, but we're also trying to increase our tax base. And if someone's gonna sit on it for 5 years before they build, that's not opening up another house possibly in the area or in the city for someone to move into. So we're basically doing this just to, we're got people that invested money in it to help get more people into town, so they got employees. And then if we let people buy it, just let it sit. I'm just discussion on that. And I understand, some people might not be able to afford that, but the other thing too is, they can't do anything with that lot until they actually put a house on it. city, they can't build a shed on it.
Yeah, well, yeah,
You know.
absolutely. Which, yeah, that covenant absolutely
So
makes
the-
sense.
So the taxes on a vacant lot are a lot less than what if it's on a house. So
Well, and.
I just threw it out there for
Yeah,
discussion.
and I would say there's argument for that because, I mean, these lots are probably gonna be sold for less than what our costs are in there, that we wanna get that producing tax base right away as well.
Yeah, we haven't got the figures laid out yet, but it's gonna be at least a break even.
Well, you hope.
Well, the city's not a bank, so,
Well, I know, but I mean, I mean, you're gonna put the infrastructure costs into that and these,
yeah, so.
you know,
then that
if
gets
the
put on
market only lets you, I mean, the market price, I mean, you can price it to break even. If the market's not willing to pay that price, then you're either sitting on them and not selling them, or you're selling them at a discount and you want to start getting that tax base to recoup that deficiency.
Because we went, the city ran through the same situation when the east side of town was. They said, the assessments weren't even paid until the lot got sold. At that point, and it almost bankrupted the city. So whether or not, how this is gonna work. That was 20-some years ago, but I just threw it out there for
Yeah, I mean,
discussion.
I mean, that's the risk of moving forward with all the infrastructure and everything, is that you're gonna have that cost the city's gonna be carrying, and how quickly are those lots gonna sell? What's the price point that they're gonna sell for? And can you break even on them if we're at $45,000, $50,000 a lot? Is that gonna be the selling price, or is it gonna be 40,000? I did reach out to a realtor who kind of gave me that price range, so.
And that's kind of the range that we've been thinking, and the people that have talked to me about it haven't had an issue. They said, well, that's not bad, so is it bad or isn't it bad? We don't know.
Again, like anything, it's what people are willing to pay.
Does anybody have anything about any of the other things listed here?
I think 2 years is a good time. And it also opens up a lot of jobs to local people for builders.
I guess the question on the cluster mailboxes, are there really other areas in town that we have cluster mailboxes, or everyone have individual mailboxes?
That's an item that the post office is requiring us to do.
Yeah.
We don't have
Oh.
a choice.
That's something new,
We don't
okay.
have a choice on that,
I was
That
that,
again?
on the mailboxes.
item 14.
Oh, okay.
I was like, I didn't think there was anywhere else in town that had that. I was
Yeah,
wondering where that
I
would
know
come
on
in
the
from.
north-
Daybreak
On the north
Lane
side,
and all
they have
them, like
Beach Nut Court, I think.
Beach Nut Court,
Yep.
all them, we actually, even where Taco Bell and Caribou, their mailboxes are in a cluster on
Okay,
Getty, so this is something the post office is saying, okay, go ahead and do this, but this is how it's gonna work.
interesting.
So
Okay.
if you gotta walk a block to get to your mailbox, you're gonna walk a block to
That's
get to
what
your
it is.
mailbox. We don't have a choice on that one, so. Anything else? Staff's looking for direction. Does she,
I can come up with I can look at some other language on that time frame issue and maybe have a clause in there unless extended by the developer or the city, and maybe it's not 2 years, maybe it's different years.
Right.
I can reach out to some other ones and see how they've worked, and I realize our market right now is a little difficult, like Heidi said. And then, I know that there's language out there on your cookie cutter,
right,
language.
yeah.
And it's tough if two individuals buy two lots and want to build identical houses. But I get that you're saying if someone comes in and says, I want to buy these 5, and then the developer can build one and his crew just keeps moving down, we want to have some variation in the look of the home
And
for
that's,
aesthetic purposes.
to me, there's nothing worse than driving into a new development and seeing 6 houses that are all identical.
Well, and
The
I
only
think,
thing that's different is the color.
right.
To me, that's ugly.
I think having the assessments rolled into the cost when you purchase a lot might help us in that respect, where a developer isn't coming in to just pass that on to the buyer, putting in their cookie cutter 6 houses, and off they go. But,
And one of the things is if we put them costs into the cost of the price of the lot, it may, have to be developed on. What I was looking at there was, okay, we had a developer comes in, buys 10 lots, and the market's not there. Those 10 lots are gonna sit empty. It's not gonna, yeah, we got the assessments paid for, but we aren't collecting nothing as far as
Yeah.
taxes off of it. Until he decides, or whoever the developer is, decides he's gonna make money.
True.
So that's some of the things that I was thinking about.
So we
That's the
can,
only reason.
we can table this covenants and come back with some of that language?
Yeah, I'm not asking you to approve that tonight. I just
No,
wanted to
right.
get some feedback.
Just discussion
Okay.
and
Yeah.
ideas, you know, if anything, we got good discussion already
If you think of
tonight,
anything
so-
else in the next few days, just shoot me an email.
And I like what Joe had to say about the, you know, if there's somebody who's coming in wanting to use it as an investment, but I see your point, you know, for later, if they're, you know, wanting to save up a little bit and build. But if a developer were to come in, I could really understand that 2-year timeframe. I think that's reasonable.
Right.
So I don't know, maybe there's something to be talked about there a little bit further as well, as if an individual is wanting to buy it to maybe in 3-4 years, then maybe having a little bit more flexibility.
And that's the flexibility that the city or whatever could give them on that case.
Right.
Where if it's a developer and he's doing this as an investment to make money and turn around, then maybe we gotta put a, no, if you're gonna buy this many lots, that's great, but you're gonna,
Do we have the ability to do that? I mean, I don't know if that's
we did it with the industrial parks.
okay.
But the only thing with them, with the industrial parks, is we came along and, we put it that if they didn't have something up within 2 years, we get to buy it back at 95%.
I'm just curious if there's a difference between residential versus a commercial lot, if there's some, like, discrimination clause in there for the
Yeah.
purpose of selling a lot. I don't know. We'll find out.
We'll find out. That's what Vicky's gonna research.
Okay.
Okay. 7B, approve resolution 2023-07, calling for hearing on public improvement.
So the preliminary design has been completed in preparation for the public hearing on the improvement of Phase 1 of the Author's Edition. The project includes the extension of both streets, and also because it impacts others, the public hearing on the improvement must be held prior to ordering the improvement if it is the intention of the city to assess those owners for their abutting and benefiting properties. There's 5 properties that will be impacted in addition to the city properties, and that is why we have to have the public hearing on the improvement. And so this action calls for the public hearing. It'll be published, and they will receive notice. And then between now and the hearing, we're working on what their preliminary assessment would be. So that's something that we're working on right now. But this simply calls the public hearing for the next council meeting on the 1st. That's Resolution 2023-07.
Questions? Concerns? Otherwise, do I have a motion to approve resolution 2023-07?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Joel,
I'll second.
second by Diane. Any discussion? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7C, approve resolution 2023-08, authorizing developmental plans and specs, Author's Edition.
So typically, that final development of the plans and specs on an improvement are authorized when you order the improvement following the public hearing, which would be 2 weeks from now. But because Author's Edition is the city and it impacts the city primarily, that we can authorize the city engineer to finalize those plans now, knowing that we will have them in the future if we decide not to proceed. One thing, the preliminary plan does include a sidewalk along one side of the street. If the council expects that the sidewalk would be eliminated, it might be prudent just to do it up front. And the other option is to let it stay in there and find out what the cost is, and you can take it out after bid or leave it in, whichever you choose. So I just wanted you to be aware that that is included in there because our design standards include walkways and paths, so that is in there. So what I'm looking here tonight is to approve Resolution 2023-08, authorizing the development of the final plans and specifications for the 2023 project.
Questions? Concerns?
I think based on the past couple capital improvement projects that we've done with the inclusion of sidewalks, I think we should keep it in there just to no cost, but like you said, have the option to remove it if we need to.
I agree.
Okay.
Also, yeah, I agree with that as far as keeping that in there, mainly because one of the concerns we had at the planning commission public hearing was pedestrian safety, especially when they get down to Hickman Drive, if they're, how we're gonna get them across the creek and that, so to take out sidewalks after that concern was brought up, I think it should stay in, so.
So right now, there's no sidewalks in that area, correct?
Right,
Like on Hendricks or anything, so.
No, there's not.
So we would then be looking to put sidewalks to extend down further beyond that project, so otherwise they're dead ending, right? So we'd be,
Yeah, I'm
You'd
not
almost
certain
have to go
how
down
we
Park
would,
Road.
how we would continue it. I think the one coming off of either Hendricks or Half a Day, then that could cross Hickman and connect into a trail that goes around to the campground. So we could connect to the rest of the city, but it wouldn't span out with the other Hickman and Hendricks properties.
right.
I don't think the proposal at this time isn't to include those, but
okay.
it would be,
So it'd be
we
off
would
that
want to
new road.
connect these new sidewalks to town some way in the
Okay.
future.
I remember there being discussion of possible trail as well. Is that
There
going
is
to
a
be
trail
included?
along Ferry Lake Road.
Okay,
And that's, in the plat, there's an easement on the back of the lots that abut Ferry Lake Road. And then they come all the way down to the south end of our development, and then the easement comes over and connects to Hendricks. So until some future date, when we can get up to Wobegon, at least you can get to it off of Hendricks and up to Hickman.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2023-08?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Diane, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Joe will second it. Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Senior Center Board appointment,
Okay, the Senior Center Board, according to our code, shall consist of 5 to 15 members. 2/3 shall be citizens of the city, and 1/3 shall be residents of the greater Sauk Center area. Currently, there's 4 members on the board, plus the council representative and a staff member. The term of Kenneth Ritter expired on December 31st, 2022. He didn't realize he had to fill out the form, so he didn't. And so now he wishes to fill it out and be considered to continue his term. So we're looking to approve the appointment of Kenneth Ritter to the Senior Center Board for a term of 3 years.
questions, concerns? Do I have a motion to approve the appointment?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Shallon, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Diane. Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7E, approve fire service contracts.
So our fire service agreements with the area townships renew every 5 years, and the contract presented has one minor change from prior years, and that is that the old contract said a specific date and time. I think it was like the third Monday at 8:30 PM or something like that, that the meeting had to be. And so that was removed, and the new contract states that a joint meeting will be held when needed. And because we have been kind of switching off to doing like every other year now. And then it comes, a lot of it has to do with a tour of the fire hall, and now they're all coming tonight to unite, seeing it then. So it's like, the meeting hasn't been real necessary, and so we just wanted to leave it up to discretion of when they needed to be held. The areas served by the fire department include Ashley Township, Birchdale, Getty, Candota, Little Sauk, Melrose, Raymond, Sauk Center, West Union Township, Westport City, and Sauk Center City. So it's a pretty good area. So what we're looking to do is to approve the fire service agreements with the area townships and cities.
Questions, comments? Do I have a motion to approve the fire service agreements?
motion to approve.
Motion by Heidi, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Shallon. Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions?
Aye.
Motion carries 4 in favor, none against, 1 abstention. 7F, accept airport resignation, airport board.
So at the airport board meeting on January 11th, Joe DeVitrio tendered his resignation from the board due to a change in residency. The council should accept the resignation, leaving an opening. The term expires December 31st, 2023. So you need to find somebody to fill out the rest of this year, and then I would expect a reappointment following. So tonight, we just need to accept the resignation of Joe DeVitrio from the Airport Board.
Do I have a motion to accept his resignation?
I'll make a
Motion. Joe?
Motion by Shallen, seconded by Joe. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7G, approve resolution 2023-09, authorizing bids for City Hall steps sidewalk.
I got a little ahead of myself on this. Keith says we're not quite ready to go to bid, but I'm the hit a shovel kind of person, so. But the plans, we've revised the plans a couple times. You were sent these via email, so you had them. The plans presented have a couple of options. We have the base plan, which is keep the pavers as shown and replace the steps and the landing with concrete. Then we have an addendum to remove all the pavers on the sidewalks and replace the whole thing with concrete. And then we have the addendum to install heat in the landing and the steps, either electric or tubing with a boiler. So the Operations Committee looked at it, and they recommend we bid both with keeping the pavers and removing them to see the cost difference, and then also to explore the cost of installing the heat. And so what we're looking to do tonight is to get your feedback if that is the way that you want to do, and then we would authorize him to finalize the bid specifications and advertise it for bid.
Well, I'm on the Operations Commission, and I really would like to see those steps heated for the reason that we've got a lot of older citizens in this town, and they come here to vote. We don't need somebody slipping out there and falling and suing us. And also, we have disabled people in wheelchairs and everything. If that's heated, it would sure be a lot better. That's why I was pushing for heated.
And we are exploring the cost of the heat. You know, we don't have a boiler or natural gas into the building, so if
Right.
we were to do that method, that would involve bringing that in and getting a boiler and getting the heat to there. The other option is electric.
Electric,
And
yeah.
I know the boiler, I think, is probably a little more efficient, but we are an all-electric building, so we would need to just figure out how that could work first, and Keith's been working on that. So, and if you want us to include that in the bid specs, then we will, so we know what that number is.
Okay.
Would it just be that entryway that would be heated, or?
Would be the top, you have the two pictures here, and the top and the steps would be heated, and one of them has a little heating down on the bottom in the landing area too, down below. You can see on that second picture, there's that dotted line. And that bottom triangle would also be heated in that one option.
Okay.
So the main landing will be all concrete?
The dark brown, the main, that main landing is the dark brown, that would be concrete, and all the white would be concrete as well. That's the steps, and just below the steps. And then if we were to heat a little further out into the sidewalk is the other question.
All concrete, the top is colored.
Yeah, it's the reason it's darker brown is it's stained. The trouble that we had before when we didn't have the railing is people would walk out of City Hall and you had the top and the steps and the sidewalk were all the same and they would walk right off, and that's why we had to put the railing up. So we thought if we had a contrasting color there, that would help.
Questions?
I guess one question I do have about the heating portion, if that is heated, is water now collecting and running somewhere else and then freezing on the sidewalk or something afterwards, or how does?
You have to ask Keith that question. It usually dries out.
Yeah, it
at the
evaporates.
Does it?
library,
I'm not
it
familiar with
dries.
how that heating,
Generally, you don't get much runoff from it. Most of it sort of evaporates. But you will get some, and so we always have to look at, the slopes make sure the water tries to run off of it. But the base has it, so it's 3 feet from the bottom step. There's a 3-foot area out around it that would be heated as the base, and then, as Vicki was pointing out, there's the other option that has a little bit of a larger area there, just to point that out. We do have to look at, because, we don't have gas into this building,
Right.
so there's things to look at for that. We'd probably be thinking about the fire hall, because a good chunk of their current floor system doesn't work anymore, so we might want to think about what works for this. Does it work for potentially expanding and be able to fix that situation sometime down the line? So there's a few things with the whole heating that we would need to look at for this. It would make sense to look at this point.
So basically, if we heat this, it's all gonna be under concrete, it's not gonna be under pavers.
It would be under concrete. Everything
Yeah.
we have would be under the concrete. We
Okay.
can put under, you can put it under pavers. And the one option has the pavers around the bottom. So, if you picked, we wanted to go a little bit farther than at 3 feet, some would be under the pavers, under the paver option. I mean, you can do it under pavers, or we can, if we decide to go with all concrete, remove the pavers, then obviously it's under concrete. So there's some minor decisions to be made yet.
I'd get rid of the pavers. Those things are crumbling all the time. Every time I'm down here, they're always crumbling and having to be fixed.
Well, there's certainly a certain aesthetic to pavers, we could, if you choose to like that look, we can do them in concrete and make it look like pavers. I mean, that's another option as well. It's just, you can do colored concrete, you can make it, you can
Stamps.
pattern it and everything to
Stamps.
make it look like, but it's actually a solid concrete. So that can be done as well as an option. If you want to suggest going that route, we could look at that option.
Okay.
Comments, questions?
I'm all for getting bids for addendum 1 and 2.
Okay, is that a motion?
That's a motion, yeah.
Okay, we got a motion by Diane to go along with final plans and going out for bids for addendum 1 and 2.
I'll second.
Second by Joe. Any other discussion? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7H, approve resolution 2023-10, accepting bid for sale of Ford Interceptor.
At the December 21st council meeting, the council approved advertising the bids for the sale of the 2015 Ford Interceptor. In addition, our 1973 Tenant Ice Resurfacer was replaced at the outdoor rink, which was also slated for approval and was advertised. Bids were accepted until Tuesday, January 17th, and the high bidders were as follows. Ken Helgeson purchased the Tenant's Resurfacer for $520, and Matthew McCoy got the 2015 Interceptor sedan for $3,801.25. So this is approving resolution 2023-10, accepting those bids for that equipment and vehicle.
Questions, comments?
Better grab the money quick.
Do I have a motion to approve resolution 2023-10, accepting the bids?
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
We have a motion by Shellen. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Diane. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. We have no unfinished business. We have no new business. Then brings us to our consent agenda. We have schedule of claims, unpaid claims of $216,145.74 for a total of the same. December checks, paid claims / payroll of $801,725.15. We have a 2022 contribution list that will be published in the Sauk Center Herald on the 19th of January, so I will not go through those pages of contributions, but I want to again, on behalf of the city, thank all those people and organizations for their contributed money or in-kind services. We have gambling application for exempt permit request from the Holy Family School for a raffle on March 5th, 2023 at Holy Family School. And we have June Messer will advance one step on February 1st, 2023. Is there any questions about the consent calendar? Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Heidi. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Joe. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. We have no informational items, so that now brings us to the end of our agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Motion by Shallen. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Heidi. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Meeting adjourned.